So you want to own an aircraft boneyard, buy the desert, park the jets, sell the pieces. Here is the strange part. A modern airliner can cost more than $200 million brand new, and the moment an airline decides to retire it, that same aircraft can be worth more taken apart than it is whole. It is one of the only machines on Earth that becomes more valuable the day it stops flying. By the end of this video, you will know what a retired jet actually costs, why its engines are the real treasure, and why the single most valuable thing in this entire business is not the metal. It is a piece of paper. Start with the desert itself, because the location is the whole reason this business can exist. Boneyards sit in dry deserts for one simple reason. Warm, dry air stops the metal from rusting, and the hard-packed ground is firm enough to park thousands of heavy aircraft on, without building expensive concrete ramps. Desert is not just cheap land, it is a natural preservation machine. So the first thing you are really buying is a large stretch of the right desert, with the right dry climate and firm ground, near an airfield long enough for a jumbo jet to land on. That land, and that runway, is the foundation of everything. Then you build out the operation. Tow tugs to move aircraft, cranes and lifts, a hangar or open bays for teardown work, and a secure yard, because the parts sitting inside these planes are worth a fortune. This is not a junkyard. It is an industrial disassembly plant that happens to sit in the sand. Costs here are serious. Just storing one large jumbo jet at a boneyard can run around $60,000 a month, and the equipment and skilled crews to tear a plane down safely are a heavy ongoing bill. Now, what actually arrives when a plane is sent to you, and what comes with it? A plane arrives at a boneyard for one of two reasons. Either it is being stored, parked temporarily because the airline does not need it right now, or it is being retired for good and will be taken apart. Those are two completely different businesses, and a good boneyard runs both at once. Stored planes are wrapped up carefully. Engines and windows get sealed with white reflective covers to keep out the sun, dust, and heat, and the aircraft receives ongoing maintenance so it could, in theory, fly again. You are a landlord for sleeping aircraft, and the airline pays you rent to keep them safe. But here is the reality that defines the industry. At many of these fields, once a plane is parked, there is less than a 1 in 5 chance it ever flies again. Most planes that come to rest in the desert are quietly, permanently, on their way to being taken apart. And the planes being retired do not arrive as garbage. They arrive as inventory. Every retired jet is a supply of engines, landing gear, and avionics that the rest of the world's fleet still desperately needs. So where does the money actually come from? There are 4 layers, and they are wildly unequal. Layer 1 is storage. Steady, boring, reliable money. Airlines and leasing companies pay you a monthly fee to park and maintain their idle aircraft. It is not glamorous, but it is predictable income that comes in whether or not you ever cut a single plane apart. Layer 2 is the big one. Parting out. When a plane is retired for good, you carefully remove its valuable, reusable components, and this is where the real money lives. This industry has a name for these harvested pieces, used serviceable material, and there is a whole global market of brokers and airlines hungry to buy them. And nothing on the plane compares to the engines. On a jumbo jet, a single engine can be worth around $2 million. That plane has 4 of them. Landing gear can fetch close to $300,000, and the cockpit displays about $30,000 each. Layer 3 is scrap, and here is the shock. After all the valuable parts are stripped out, the entire remaining aluminum body of a jumbo jet, the fuselage, the wings, all of it, is worth only around $55,000 in raw metal. That bare shell is almost an afterthought. Layer 4 is the afterlife. Stripped metal gets melted into aluminum for cans and car parts, and the more creative operators sell whole sections as film sets, flight training mock-ups, museum pieces, even furniture and hotel rooms built inside old fuselages. Small money next to the engines, but it fills the yard's edges. Here is the number that reframes this entire business, and it is not the engine. You would think the value is in the physical part. An engine, the gear, the metal. But an aircraft part is only worth real money if it comes with one thing. Its paperwork. Its complete, traceable history of every hour it flew, every repair, every inspection, certified and documented. 2 identical engines can sit side by side. One with full certified records is worth a fortune. That engine and can go straight back onto a flying plane. Its twin without paperwork is worth almost nothing but scrap, and the document, not the metal, is the asset. Listen to that again. In this business, a part with its records is treasure, and the exact same part without them is garbage. So the true skill of a boneyard is not cutting metal. It is the disciplined, meticulous tracking of every component's history, because the records are what turn a heap of used parts into certified, sellable inventory. So let us run the real books, because the costs are as unusual as the revenue. On the cost side, first, the land and the runway. A large, secure desert site with a runway long enough for wide-body jets is expensive to acquire and maintain, and it is the fixed foundation you pay for whether business is busy or slow. Second, the equipment and the crews. Cranes, tugs, specialized tools, and highly skilled certified technicians who know how to remove a multi-million-dollar engine without damaging it. Skilled labor is the engine of your profit, and skilled labor is not cheap. Third, environmental handling. A plane is full of fuel, oil, hydraulic fluid, and hazardous materials that must be drained and disposed of safely and legally before teardown. Do it wrong, and you face serious fines. This is a regulated industrial process, not a scrap heap, and the whole ledger swings on one unpredictable thing: timing. A used part rises and falls in value with how many of that aircraft type are still flying and needing spares. Part out a jet while its type is still in demand, and the engines sell high. Wait too long, and the market for those parts can quietly disappear. And that leads straight to the trap that catches people in this business. The trap is that you are holding a rapidly aging asset in a market you do not control. That instant a plane is retired, the clock starts. Every month it sits waiting to be parted out, you pay storage, and the parts inside it slowly lose value. Because more of that plane type get retired, and the world fills up with the same used engines. So you can be sitting on a plane that looks like a gold mine, full of valuable engines and gear, and slowly lose money on it, because you are paying to store it while the resale value of everything inside it drifts downward. That asset is melting, quietly, while it just sits in the sun. Buyers who lose treat a retired jet like buried treasure. Sure, the parts will always sell. Ones who win treat it like fresh fish, valuable now, worth less every single day, and something you must process and sell fast before the market moves against you. To understand the scale of this, look at the largest boneyard on Earth. In the Arizona desert sits a military facility so vast, it is just called the Boneyard. It holds thousands of retired military aircraft spread across acres of dry ground, a silent air force that will never fly again. And it is not a graveyard. It is a warehouse. That single facility reclaims and supplies around $500 million worth of aircraft parts every year, feeding usable components back to aircraft still in service, and the dead planes keep the living ones flying. Commercial boneyards run on the exact same logic. When a global shock hits, like the travel collapse a few years ago, airlines flew hundreds of their largest, most expensive jets straight to the desert almost overnight. Those very planes then became the parts supply that kept the surviving fleet in the air. One era's grounded fleet becomes the next era's spare parts. So how does an aircraft boneyard actually fail? Rarely from lack of planes. Picture the common failure. An operator buys a fleet of retired jets cheaply, certain the engines alone will make them rich. On paper, the parts are worth a fortune. That plan looks brilliant. But two things go wrong at once. First, tearing the planes down and certifying every part takes far longer and costs far more than expected. So the valuable engines sit uninstalled, earning nothing while the storage bills pile up. Second, the market for that engine type softens as other operators retire the same jets, and the price of the parts they are counting on slowly sinks. And the parts do sell, but for less than expected, and long after the storage and labor bills have eaten the margin. Those planes were never worthless. That owner just paid too much, moved too slowly, and watched a melting asset lose the race against its own costs. So who actually builds a lasting business out here? Survivors understand that this is a speed and paperwork business, dressed up as a scrap business. So they build everything around moving fast and documenting perfectly. First, they balance storage and teardown. Steady rent from stored aircraft pays the fixed bills and keeps the lights on, while the parting out delivers the big, lumpy profits. One income is boring and reliable, the other is huge and unpredictable, and you need both to survive. Second, they move fast on the parts that matter. They know the engines are the prize, so they harvest, certify, and sell the high-value components quickly, while that aircraft type is still in demand, rather than letting a jet sit for years slowly losing value in the sun. Third, and above all, They treat records as sacred. Every part is tracked, tagged, and certified with a flawless paper trail, because that documentation is what turns a used component into a premium, sellable, airworthy part. Operators with the best paperwork, not the biggest saws, are the ones who get rich. So does owning an aircraft boneyard actually work? Run both sides. The good version. You own the right desert with a real runway. You balance steady storage rent against fast, disciplined parting out, and your paperwork is flawless. The engines sell high while their type is in demand. The stored fleet pays your bills, and you sit on one of the most fascinating, seriously profitable recycling businesses in the world. The bad version. You overpaid for a fleet of aging jets. Your teardown crawled. Your records were sloppy, and the market for your engines faded while the planes sat racking up storage. Parts were real, but the timing and the paperwork beat you, and the melting asset quietly bled you dry. So the honest verdict: an aircraft boneyard is a real, sophisticated, and deeply valuable business. But it is not a junkyard, and treating it like one is fatal. It is a storage landlord fused with a high-stakes parts trader, where speed and documentation decide everything. That metal was never the point. Its engines and their paperwork always were. Here is the thing to remember. The next time you fly over a desert and see hundreds of parked jets shining in the sun, you are not looking at a graveyard. You are looking at a warehouse. Every one of those silent aircraft is a shelf of engines, gear, and instruments waiting to be harvested, certified, and flown again inside other planes. That airplane was never really the asset. It was a flying container for a fortune in parts, and a boneyard is just the place where that fortune is unpacked, documented, and sold. A plane earns its keep twice, once in the air and once, far more quietly, in pieces. Desert did not kill the airplane. It just opened the books on what the airplane was actually worth and made sure every last valuable piece of it flew again.